Have you ever felt like your dreams were too big for your circumstances? Like the vision God placed in your heart seemed impossible given where you are right now. Today, we journey back nearly 4,000 years to meet a young man whose story has inspired millions. A story of dreams that seemed crushed, but were actually being cultivated in the hidden places. This is the story of Joseph, and it begins not in a palace, but in a field. Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob, a man who knew about struggle and divine promises. Jacob's own life had been transformed after wrestling with God, earning him the name Israel, one who struggles with God. Joseph was born to Rachel, Jacob's deeply loved wife, in his old age. From his earliest days, Joseph was special to his father. Perhaps Jacob saw in him the innocence he himself had lost, or perhaps he recognized a spiritual sensitivity that marked this boy as different. The famous coat of many colors wasn't merely a fashion statement. In that culture, such a garment signaled authority, favor, and distinction. It was typically reserved for the heir apparent. When Jacob placed that robe on Joseph's shoulders, he was making a declaration. This son carries something significant. But favoritism has consequences, and in a family already complicated by multiple mothers and sibling rivalries, this act planted seeds of deep resentment. Joseph, perhaps naive in his youth, didn't help matters. He began having dreams, vivid, powerful dreams that he eagerly shared. "Listen to this dream I had," he told his brothers one day. "We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field, when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." The brothers' response was immediate and bitter. "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" The text tells us they hated him all the more because of his dreams and his words. But Joseph had another dream, and again he told it to his brothers. This time, he said, "The sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." Even his father rebuked him this time. "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you?" Yet, Scripture gives us a crucial detail. His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Jacob sensed something. Perhaps he remembered his own encounters with God through dreams, the ladder reaching to heaven, the vision at Bethel. Perhaps he wondered if God was speaking to this son in ways he hadn't spoken to the others. The tension reached its breaking point when Jacob sent 17-year-old Joseph to check on his brothers, who were grazing the flocks near Shechem. "Go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks," Jacob said, "and bring word back to me." Joseph obeyed, traveling from the valley of Hebron to Shechem. When he didn't find them there, a man directed him to Dothan. As Joseph approached, his brothers saw him in the distance. The sight of that colorful robe, the reminder of their father's favoritism, the memory of those dreams, it all boiled over. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to one another. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We can say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." Only Reuben, the eldest, intervened. "Let's not take his life. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into this cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him." Reuben intended to rescue Joseph later and return him to their father. So when Joseph arrived, they stripped him of his robe, that visible symbol of his father's love, and threw him into an empty cistern. Then they sat down to eat. Imagine the scene: Joseph crying out from the pit, confused and terrified, while his brothers calmly ate their meal just feet away. Then they saw a caravan of Ishmaelite traders approaching on their way to Egypt. Judah saw an opportunity. "What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." The brothers agreed. They pulled Joseph up from the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver, the price of a slave. To cover their crime, they took Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, dipped the robe in its blood, and brought it to their father. "We found this," they said. "Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe." Jacob recognized it immediately. "It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him." Joseph has surely been torn to pieces. He tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for many days. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave, he said. Meanwhile, the Ishmaelites took Joseph to Egypt and sold him to Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard. At this moment, everything seemed lost. The dreams appeared shattered. The promise seemed broken. Joseph was now a slave in a foreign land, separated from everything familiar. But here's what we need to understand. God's promises aren't destroyed by human betrayal. They're often refined by it. Joseph's journey to Egypt wasn't a detour from God's plan. It was the path to its fulfillment. Egypt was the superpower of the ancient world, advanced, sophisticated, and deeply polytheistic. For a Hebrew shepherd boy raised in the covenant promises of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this was more than geographical displacement. This was spiritual and cultural exile. Joseph found himself in Potiphar's household, a high-ranking Egyptian official. The text tells us something remarkable. The Lord was with Joseph. Despite his circumstances, Joseph didn't succumb to bitterness. He served with such excellence and integrity that Potiphar noticed. His master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did. Joseph found favor in Potiphar's eyes and was put in charge of his entire household. Everything Potiphar owned flourished under Joseph's management. But success often attracts new tests. Potiphar's wife noticed this handsome, capable Hebrew slave. Day after day, she approached him with a proposition. Come to bed with me. Joseph's response reveals his character. With me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? Day after day, she persisted, and day after day, he refused. He avoided being alone with her. But one day, when no one else was in the house, she caught him by his cloak. Come to bed with me, she demanded. Joseph fled, leaving his cloak in her hand. Humiliated and vengeful, she screamed for the household servants. Look, she cried, holding Joseph's cloak. This Hebrew slave you brought us came in here to make sport of me. When I screamed, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. When Potiphar returned, she told him the same story. Potiphar's anger burned. Despite Joseph's years of faithful service, despite all the prosperity. For a Hebrew shepherd boy raised in the covenant promises of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this was more than geographical displacement. This was spiritual and cultural exile. Joseph found himself in Potiphar's household, a high-ranking Egyptian official. The text tells us something remarkable. The Lord was with Joseph. Despite his circumstances, Joseph didn't succumb to bitterness. He served with such excellence and integrity that Potiphar noticed. His master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did. Joseph found favor in Potiphar's eyes and was put in charge of his entire household. Everything Potiphar owned flourished under Joseph's management. But success often attracts new tests. Potiphar's wife noticed this handsome, capable Hebrew slave. Day after day, she approached him with a proposition. Come to bed with me. Joseph's response reveals his character. With me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? Day after day, she persisted, and day after day, he refused. He avoided being alone with her. But one day, when no one else was in the house, she caught him by his cloak. Come to bed with me, she demanded. Joseph fled, leaving his cloak in her hand. Humiliated and vengeful, she screamed for the household servants. Look, she cried, holding Joseph's cloak. This Hebrew slave you brought us came in here to make sport of me. When I screamed, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. When Potiphar returned, she told him the same story. Potiphar's anger burned. Despite Joseph's years of faithful service, despite all the prosperity. 2 full years after Joseph interpreted the prisoner's dreams, Pharaoh himself had a dream. He was standing by the Nile when out of the river came 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows, ugly and gaunt, came up out of the Nile and stood beside those on the riverbank. And the ugly, gaunt cows ate up the 7 sleek, fat cows. Pharaoh woke up but then fell asleep again and had a second dream. 7 heads of grain, healthy and good, were growing on a single stalk. After them, 7 other heads of grain sprouted, thin and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 healthy, full heads. Pharaoh was troubled. He summoned all the magicians and wise men of Egypt and told them his dreams, but no one could interpret them. Then the chief cupbearer suddenly remembered. "Today I am reminded of my shortcomings," he told Pharaoh. "There was a young Hebrew with me in prison, a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each man the interpretation of his dream. And things turned out exactly as he interpreted them." Pharaoh sent for Joseph. They brought him hastily from the dungeon. He shaved, changed his clothes, and came before Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I have had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." Joseph's response is critical. He doesn't take credit. He doesn't boast about his gift. He says, "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Joseph listened as Pharaoh described both dreams. Then he said, "The dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. Ephraim, God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering." Joseph recognized that his greatest fruitfulness came not despite his suffering, but through it. His pain had become the soil for his purpose. Then the 7 years of abundance in Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had said. The famine was severe in all the lands, but in Egypt there was food. When the people cried to Pharaoh for food, he told them, "Go to Joseph and do what he tells you." Joseph opened the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians. The famine was severe everywhere, and people from all countries came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe in all the world. Meanwhile, back in Canaan, Jacob learned there was grain in Egypt. He said to his sons, "Why do you just keep looking at each other? I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us so that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob kept Benjamin, Joseph's full brother, at home. He said, "I am afraid that harm might come to him." The brothers arrived and bowed down before Joseph with their faces to the ground. Joseph recognized his brothers immediately, but they did not recognize him. He remembered the dreams he had about them many years before. Joseph spoke harshly to them. "Where do you come from?" he demanded. "From the land of Canaan to buy food," they replied. Joseph remembered his dreams and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected." "No, my lord," they answered. "Your servants have come to buy food. We are all the sons of one man. Your servants are honest men, not spies." "No," Joseph insisted. "You have come to see where our land is unprotected." Then they told him, "Your servants were 12 brothers, the sons of one man, who lives in the land of Canaan. The youngest is now with our father, and one is no more." Joseph said to them, "It is just as I told you. You are spies. This is how you will be tested. As surely as Pharaoh lives, you will not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of your number to get your brother. The rest of you will be kept in prison, so that your words may be tested to see if you are telling the truth." He put them all in custody for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "Do this, and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here in prison, while the rest of you go and take grain back for your starving households." But you must bring your youngest brother to me, so that your words may be verified and that you may not die." The brothers said to one another in Hebrew, "Surely we are being punished because of our brother. We saw how distressed he was when he pleaded with us for his life, but we would not listen. That's why this distress has come on us." Reuben replied, "Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy? But you wouldn't listen. Now we must give an accounting for his blood." They did not realize Joseph could understand them, since he was using an interpreter. Joseph turned away from them and wept. Then he returned, chose Simeon to remain bound before their eyes, and had him taken away. Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to put each man's silver back in his sack, and to give them provisions for their journey. When they stopped for the night, one of them opened his sack to get feed for his donkey and saw his silver in the mouth of the sack. "My silver has been returned," he said to his brothers. "Here it is in my sack." Their hearts sank, and they turned to each other trembling and said, "What is this that God has done to us?" When they returned to Canaan, they told Jacob everything. As they emptied their sacks, every man's pouch of silver was found inside. They were all afraid. Then Jacob said to them, "You have deprived me of my children. Joseph is no more and Simeon is no more, and now you want to take Benjamin. Everything is against me." Reuben said to his father, "You may put both of my sons to death if I do not bring him back to you. Entrust him to my care, and I will bring him back." But Jacob refused. "My son will not go down there with you. His brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm comes to him on the journey you are taking, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in sorrow." The famine continued severe, and when they had eaten all the grain they had brought from Egypt, Jacob said to them, "Go back and buy us a little more food." But Judah said, "The man warned us solemnly, 'You will not see my face again unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother along with us, we will go down and buy food for you. But if you will not send him, we will not go down." Jacob complained, "Why did you bring this trouble on me by telling the man you had another brother?" They replied, "The man questioned us closely about ourselves and our family. 'Is your father still living? Do you have another brother?' We just answered his questions. How are we to know?" He would say, "Bring your brother down here." Then Judah said to his father, "Send the boy along with me, and we will go at once, so that we and you and our children may live and not die. I myself will guarantee his safety. You can hold me personally responsible for him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him here before you, I will bear the blame before you all my life. As it is, if we had not delayed, we could have gone and returned twice." Finally, Jacob said, "If it must be, then do this. Put some of the best products of the land in your bags and take them down to the man as a gift, a little balm and a little honey, some spices and myrrh, some pistachio nuts and almonds. Take double the amount of silver with you, for you must return the silver that was put back into your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake. And go back to the man. May God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, so that he will let your other brother and Benjamin come back with you. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved." So the brothers took the gifts and double the silver, and Benjamin also. They hurried down to Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to his steward, "Take these men to my house, slaughter an animal, and prepare a meal. They are to eat with me at noon." The steward did as Joseph told him and brought the men to Joseph's house. But they were frightened, saying, "We were brought here because of the silver that was returned to our sacks the first time. He wants to attack us and overpower us and seize us as slaves and take our donkeys." So they approached Joseph's steward and explained at the doorway of the house. "We beg your pardon, our lord," they said. "We came down here the first time to buy food. But at the place where we stopped for the night, we opened our sacks, and each of us found his silver, the exact weight, in the mouth of his sack. So we have brought it back with us. We have also brought additional silver with us to buy food. We don't know who put our silver in our sacks." "It's all right," the steward said. "Don't be afraid. Your God, the God of your father, has given you treasure in your sacks. I received your silver." Then he brought Simeon out to them. The steward took them into Joseph's house, gave them water to wash their feet, and provided fodder for their donkeys. They prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon. When Joseph came home, They presented to him the gifts they had brought into the house, and they bowed down before him to the ground. He asked them how they were, and then he said, "How is your aged father you told me about? Is he still living?" They replied, "Your servant our father is still alive and well." And they bowed down, prostrating themselves before him. As he looked about and saw his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son, he asked, "Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about?" And he said, "God be gracious to you, my son." Deeply moved at the sight of his brother, Joseph hurried out and looked for a place to weep. He went into his private room and wept there. After he had washed his face, he came out and, controlling himself, said, "Serve the food." They served him by himself, the brothers by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because Egyptians could not eat with Hebrews, for that is detestable to Egyptians. The brothers were seated before him in order of their ages, from the firstborn to the youngest, and they looked at each other in astonishment. When portions were served to them from Joseph's table, Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as anyone else's, and they feasted and drank freely with him. Joseph instructed his steward, "Fill the men's sacks with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. Then put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain." At daybreak, the men were sent on their way with their donkeys. They had not gone far from the city when Joseph said to his steward, "Go after those men at once, and when you catch up with them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this the cup my master drinks from and also uses for divination? This is a wicked thing you have done.'" When the steward caught up with them, he repeated these words. They protested, "Why does my lord say such things? Far be it from your servants to do anything like that. We even brought back to you from the land of Canaan the silver we found inside the mouths of our sacks. So why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If any of your servants is found to have it, he will die, and the rest of us will become my lord's slaves." "Very well, then," the steward said, "let be as you say. Whoever is found to have it will become my slave. The rest of you will be free from blame." Each of them quickly lowered his sack to the ground and opened it. The steward searched, beginning with the oldest and ending with the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. At this, they tore their clothes. Then they all loaded their donkeys and returned to the city. Joseph was still in the house when Judah and his brothers came in, and they threw themselves to the ground before him. Joseph said to them, "What is this you have done? Don't you know that a man like me can find things out by divination? What can we say to my lord?" Judah replied, "What can we say? How can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered your servant's guilt. We are now my lord's slaves, we ourselves and the one who was found to have a cup." But Joseph said, "Far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who was found to have the cup will become my slave. The rest of you, go back to your father in peace." Then Judah went up to him and said, "Pardon your servant, my lord. Let me speak a word to my lord. Do not be angry with your servant, though you are equal to Pharaoh himself." My lord asked his servants, "Do you have a father or a brother?" And we answered, "We have an aged father, and there is a young son born to him in his old age. His brother is dead, and he is the only one of his mother's sons left, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, 'Bring him down to me, so I can see him for myself.' And we said to my lord, 'The boy cannot leave his father. If he leaves him, his father will die.' But you told your servants, 'Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you will not see my face again.' Then we went back to your servant, my father, and told him what my lord had said. When our father said, 'Go back and buy a little more food,' we told him, 'We cannot go down. Only if our youngest brother is with us will we go.' Then your servant my father said to us, 'You know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One of them went away from me, and I said, "He has surely been torn to pieces," and I have not seen him since. If you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in misery. So now, if the boy is not with us when I go back to your servant my father, and since my father's life is closely bound up with the boy's life, when he sees that the boy isn't there, he will die. Your servants will bring the gray head of our father down to the grave in sorrow. Your servant guaranteed the boy's safety to my father. I said, if I do not bring him back to you, I will bear the blame before you, my father, all my life. Now then, please let your servant remain here as my lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would come on my father. Joseph could no longer control himself. Have everyone leave my presence. He cried out. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still living? But his brothers were not able to answer him, because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to them, Come close to me. When they had done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now, do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourself for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, This is what your son Joseph says. God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me. You, your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that it is really I who am speaking to you. Tell my father about all the honor accorded me in Egypt and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly. Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept, and Benjamin embraced him, weeping. And he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Afterward his brothers talked with him. When the news reached Pharaoh's palace that Joseph's brothers had come, Pharaoh and all his officials were pleased. Pharaoh said to Joseph, Tell your brothers, do this. Load your animals and return to the land of Canaan, and bring your father and your families back to me. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you can enjoy the fat of the land. So Joseph gave them carts, as Pharaoh had commanded, and he also gave them provisions for their journey. To each of them he gave new clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 shekels of silver and 5 sets of clothes. And this is what he sent to his father: 10 donkeys loaded with the best things of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other provisions for his journey. As they were leaving, Joseph called after them, Don't quarrel on the way. They went up out of Egypt and came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. They told him, Joseph is still alive. In fact, he is ruler of all Egypt. Jacob was stunned. He did not believe them. But when they told him everything Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the carts Joseph had sent to carry him back, the spirit of their father Jacob revived. I am convinced. Israel said, My son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. So Israel set out with all that was his. And when he reached Beersheba, he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in a vision at night and said, Jacob, Jacob. Here I am, he replied. I am God, the God of your father, he said. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again. And Joseph's own hand will close your eyes. Then Jacob left Beersheba, and Israel's sons took their father Jacob and their children and their wives in the carts that Pharaoh had sent to transport him. They also took with them their livestock and the possessions they had acquired in Canaan. And Jacob and all his offspring went to Egypt. Joseph had a chariot made ready and went to Goshen to meet his father Israel. As soon as Joseph appeared before him, he threw his arms around his father and wept for a long time. Israel said to Joseph, Now I am ready to die, since I have seen for myself that you are still alive. Joseph settled his father and his brothers in Egypt and gave them property in the best part of the land, the district of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. Joseph also provided his father and his brothers and all his father's household with food, according to the number of their children. And so Israel lived in Egypt, and their descendants multiplied greatly. Many years later, when Joseph's father Jacob was near death, he called for his sons and blessed them, prophesying about their futures. Then Jacob breathed his last and was gathered to his people. Joseph threw himself on his father and wept over him and kissed him. After Jacob's death, Joseph's brothers feared that Joseph would now take revenge on them. They sent word to Joseph, "Before he died, your father left these instructions. This is what you are to say to Joseph. I ask you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they committed in treating you so.